Hi, it's Councillor Ainsley checking in.
Good morning, Councillor. This is the clerk. We just need a few
Hey,
minutes.
Ellen, how are you?
Good, thank you. We just need a couple of minutes. We were just getting the timer set up. I'll let you know.
No problem.
Thank you.
Welcome to Scarborough.
To the chair, we are ready to go. Are you ready to go right now? And then if so, we just need a few seconds after that to start the YouTube.
Okay, I'm ready whenever you are.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Paul Ainsley. I am the chair of Scarborough Community Council. The clerk has confirmed that we have quorum, so I would like to call meeting number 2 to order. Welcome to everyone. Today's meeting is being held with members of City Council and City staff participating by video conference and in person at the Scarborough Civic Centre in the Council Chamber. The Scarborough Civic Centre is open to the public and anyone is welcome to attend the meeting in the Council Chamber today. The public may continue to participate electronically by video conference. This meeting is also being live streamed at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. The City Clerk staff have connected remote public speakers to the meeting by video conference, and there are public speakers in the room with us today. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Scarborough Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. I ask everyone for their patience with any delays and technical issues. Members, the City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on the City Clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff will be available to members in the chamber and remotely if you need help with your devices. As part of each agenda item, I will ask members to raise their hand or unmute their microphone if they wish to question staff or to speak. I will then create a speakers list and will call on members when it's their turn to speak. When voting on an item or a motion, I ask that members ensure they turn on their video and to raise their hand to indicate their vote. Members, this is a paperless meeting, and I want to remind you that you must still submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at scc@toronto.ca to assist with any motions. For the land acknowledgement, I would like to say on behalf of Scarborough Community Council that the land we're standing on today is the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty Number 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. At this point, I'll ask if there's any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Seeing none, could I have somebody move a motion to confirm the minutes from our last meeting of December 1st, 2022?
So move.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. All in favor? And that carries. I will now go through the agenda. All right, must switch page. Our first item, SC 2.1, is 1625, 1633, and 1641 Kingston Road and 52 Birchcliff Avenue. Rental housing demolition application. This is a final report. We have one speaker listed, so I will hold that down. SC 2.2, 120 Donside Drive is an application for a fence exemption. We have speakers for that. I will hold that down. SC 2.3 is 65 Droxford Avenue, an application for a fence exemption in Ward 21. Would anybody like to move that or hold that?
Mr. Chair, I think there are two options there. One is to grant and one's to refuse. I'd like to grant the exemption.
Okay. Thank you.
This was a recurrent item from our last meeting in, I think, December.
Okay, and if we can have that motion on the screen for Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Does anybody have any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that motion passes. Our next item is 16 Summerton Place, an application for a fence exemption in Ward 22. We have a speaker on that item, so I will hold that down. SC 2.5, 7 Dunwatson Drive, an application for a fence exemption in Ward 25. We have speakers on that. I will hold that item. Number 7 is 312 Morrish Road, an application for a fence exemption. We have speakers on that item. I will hold that one. SC 2.8, 49 Bellamy Road South, an application to remove a private tree in Ward 20. Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move staff recommendations, which is to deny the permit.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crawford. Any questions of the mover? Seeing none, all in favor of the recommendation? That carries. Number 9 is 140 Courcelette Drive, an application to remove a private tree. There are speakers on that item. I will hold that down. Number 10 is 83 Collingsbrook Boulevard, an application to remove a private tree in Ward 22. Councillor Mantis.
To the chair, Councillor Mantis is not here.
Okay, and he's not online that I'm seeing, so I will hold that down. Maybe he's just running late this morning. Number 11, SC 2.11 is an all-way stop control at Brooklawn Avenue, and Barkdene Hills is in Ward 20. Councillor Crawford, do you have any?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move an amendment to remove the word "not" from this to have Scarborough Community Council authorize the all-way compulsory stop.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions of Councillor Crawford? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? That carries. Number 12 is SC 2.12 is an accessible parking space at Madelaine Avenue in Ward 20. Councillor Crawford?
I will move staff recommendations.
All right, any questions of Councillor Crawford? Seeing none, all in favor of the staff recommendations on this item? That carries. Number 13, parking amendments, Ellesmere Road, Cul-de-Sac in Ward 25.
I'll move.
Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
I'll move the recommendations.
Deputy Mayor McKelvey's moving the recommendations. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries. SC 2.14, a U-turn prohibition at Dunmurray Boulevard between Eaglestone Road and Gablehurst Crescent in Ward 22. So Madam Clerk, Councillor Mansis still is not available?
No.
All right, I will hold that one down for a few more minutes. I'm sorry, there's a speaker on that one as well, I believe. SC 2.15, road safety review for Port Union Road in Ward 25.
Thank you. I have a motion.
Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
Sorry. Thank you. I have a motion to defer.
Okay.
That consideration of this item be deferred until the, oh, I thought we were going to defer to May. Sorry. Yeah, the May 2023 meeting at Scarborough Community Council. And that's just because staff are looking at the warrants that we have for speed bump consideration. So we should have that report back from staff before that time, and then we can revisit it.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey's moving deferral of this item until our May meeting of Scarborough Community Council. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that carries. SC 2.16, through highways, Belinda Square, Sandyhook Square, and Sylvestre Square in Ward 22, which is Councillor Mantis. So I will, sorry, and there's a speaker listed on that one as well. SC 2.17 are appointments to Business Improvement Area Board of Management in Ward 20 and Ward 21. No speakers. Councillor Crawford or Thompson, did either one of you want to hold this item or move it together?
Mr. Chair, Councillor Thompson here. I would like to move a motion. The clerk has my motion, deleting 2 names and adding 3 names from the Wexford Heights BIA.
Okay, the motion is on the screen. Does anybody have any questions on the motion? All in favor of the amendment? That carries. Item is amended. All in favor? And that carries. All right. Thank you very much. So we are going back to item number 1, SC 2.1, 1625, 1633, and 16. Sorry, do any members have any items of new business that they would like to add to the agenda? Seeing none. All right. Thank you. Now we're going back to SC 2.1, 1625, 1633, and 1641 Kingston Road and 52 Birchcliff Avenue rental housing demolition application. This is a final report in Ward 20. And speakers, sorry, my apologies. So we have speakers listed on this item. The first speaker, Anna Dewar Gully. Is Ms. Gully available?
You may have to just press the button for your.
May I begin? Does that work?
Yep, you can start whenever you want. You have 5 minutes to address Community Council.
Great, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to address Scarborough Community Council today. My name is Anna Dewar Gully. I am the former chair and founder of the Birchcliff Village Community Association, and for many, many years now, I have run an engaged Facebook group made of 5,000 plus community members in the area of Birchcliff and Scarborough Southwest. I'm here because I've been working in various ways to support the cause, concerns, and voices of the tenants of 1625, 1633, and 1641 Kingston Road, otherwise known as Lenmore Court, since the tenants were first notified that the developer Altry planned to displace them as if it was a fait accompli in August 2020, nearly 2 months before the developer was actually submitted an official application to the city in October 2020. As a citizen, I want to draw your attention as councillors to the ludicrously high volume of demolitions of affordable housing that are happening in my community, I'm quite sure all over this city. They've been proposed in my community of Birchcliff Southwest, and I sit here with 2 tenants, and there are, I understand, other tenants in this room today who are not speaking. And these have happened, these proposals have happened during a pandemic when it has been harder than normal to consult tenants. And I think that's wrong, and I think you need to pay attention to that unless you want more tent cities in neighborhoods close to home. I would like to start by asserting on the record how appallingly inequitable this process has been for tenants, how tilted towards the developers' interests and viewpoints of executive level city decision makers, and how poorly tenants' voices have been truly considered, despite the events titled tenant consultation or public consultation. If it is the city's intention, as I truly, really hope it is, to meaningfully engage, especially our most vulnerable citizens, in the year that is today, 2023, you have to actually be prepared through these consultation processes to change outcomes based on what you hear, especially from the most vulnerable and underrepresented stakeholders in your processes. I would be very happy to provide an abundance of examples of this process and its problems to any councillor who cares about equity, who would like to hear about how this process can and should be improved. Please reach out to me anytime. Today, we understand that Scarborough Council is being asked to approve and recommend for City Council's approval the rental housing demolition permit, based on the city's satisfaction that there is an affordable rental housing plan to replace the housing for the tenants and to assist them to mitigate hardship. We have a very specific ask for you today. We're asking you to defer this decision and recommendation for approval of demolition until such a time that city staff are able to present in significant and explicit detail the detailed, firm, unchangeable, and tenant-approved tenant relocation and assistance plan to be included in the public record as part of this approval, the one that you're being asked to make today. And to have that included as part of the record of the decision so that tenants have some mechanism to pursue accountability to ensure that their rights are actually being met and that the promises that have been made to them in private closed-door meetings are actually going to be adhered to. I'm going to skip a little bit and say the tenants learned only yesterday of this meeting, and they saw that the meetings for the material were posted online. That item 1C of the report provides absolutely no specific or material details of the proposed plan. The tenants reviewed and provided detailed concerns about it at a tenant consultation meeting on December 14th, 2022. At that meeting, tenants were under the impression that the plan was indeed a proposal, as indicated on the housing planner's slides quite clearly, and at no point since have they seen a detailed, final, and agreed to version of that plan, and therefore they don't actually know what the real plan is, and item 1C does not provide explicit details. I secondly would like to ask you to have the settlement that the City of Toronto reached on the case with OLT during their case management proceeding to be made public in a matter of public record alongside the detailed, specific, and explicit request that we're making to have the details of the tenant assistance and relocation plan included in the materials before you make this decision. Specific details we want to see in the final plan on public record before your approval, because tenants have asked for them throughout this process, is safeguarding affordable rents in perpetuity, not for 10 years. This will no longer be affordable rental stock 10 years from now if you don't make it perpetual. A specific commitment to get tenants rehoused in our immediate community so they aren't displaced. Specific assurance that all 33 units will actually be affordable housing at the end of this development, not just the folks that are left in the building after the rest have been bullied out. Tenants want mental health care. They have gone through the most ridiculous ordeal. I have been part of it with them. I want them to get therapeutic support. That's what they're asking for. They asked for that at the consultation. We did not see that in a revised proposal. The rental gap payments need to be specified in writing on the record. And further, we want to make sure that tenants are included in the approvals process if any material changes are made to the rental replacement and reallocation process at any later date. To close, defer this application for approval now until city staff are prepared to present a detailed item explaining exactly how tenants are going to be relocated and exactly how they're going to be assisted through this process. B, the plan needs to include the satisfaction of the tenants of any material changes. And finally, that you include the tenants from these buildings among the list of stakeholders noted in this report that must approve any proposed change, so that it is not only city executives, the chief planner, for example, who get to approve changes, but it's actually tenants themselves who are most effective and most able to determine are their interests worse off if a plan is materially changed, rather than a bureaucrat who is not living their lived experience. I thank you for your opportunity to address the council this morning.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dwyer-Gully. Do Any councillors have questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you very much.
No, Councillor Ainsley? Councillor?
Oh, sorry,
have
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah. I wonder if he could just come back. Thank you. So I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. With respect to the city's policy regarding a tenant replacement plan, it's not clear to those tenants that are affected by this replacement request as to what the plan for relocation is for them. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that they have not seen a finalized plan. What they saw was a proposed plan at a meeting on December 14th. And when you read item 1C, which we only saw posted late yesterday afternoon, so it doesn't give us a lot of time to think about this problem. But when we looked at item 1C, it says that there is a satisfactory plan. It doesn't say specifically what that plan is. It doesn't say exactly what's in that plan. And when it was presented to the tenants on December 14th, it was presented as a proposed plan, and it was presented in the context of a consultation in which the tenants provided feedback and have subsequently not received any confirmation that any of their requests for alteration of that proposal have been addressed in the final plan.
Fair enough. Sorry, you're looking for further clarification. No,
Yeah.
sorry. Let me ask the question.
Sorry.
Thank you. So you're looking for further clarification. I understand the request to have a deferral. However, if the clarification could be provided here today and there's satisfaction in terms of understanding, because I'm assuming that you've indicated there are 33 tenants in the building, correct? How many of those tenants are you represent? Do you live in the building?
No, I don't live in the building, as I said at the beginning of my statement.
I just asked the question. I just want. It wasn't clear to me whether you did or not.
No,
okay, thank you. And how many of the tenants that are affected of the 33 are part of the group that you represent? Are you representing all 33 of those tenants, or are you representing a portion of them? I mean, how many tenants?
First of all, there's no longer 33 units that had renters at the beginning of this process in the building, because many of them have actually been bullied out with cash offers.
So, ma'am, sorry.
I don't know is the answer to that question.
Know.
And I don't know that anyone knows, quite frankly. I'm not sure that anyone knows is the answer to that question. We started with...
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Other questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Dwar-Gully. Our next deputant is Tracy Chisafaru.
You start speaking.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. My name is Tracy Cristoforo. I am a resident of 1625 Kingston Road. I've lived there for 24 years. I'm a single parent. I've raised both of my children in this unit, and my children are still with me. I am the president of Tenants Have No Rights Association, who was originally listed as a party to the OLT hearing until our party was fraudulently removed and not replaced in the OLT. I have a special needs son who I guarantee at this point will be with me for a very long time. Like I say, I've been there for 24 years. We want a deferral today. We're requesting a deferral. We have not received any proper information of compensation or relocation, and we're getting different information sent to us from different avenues, and nothing is concrete. Nothing has been provided to us properly of any knowledge. To close here, our asks are to defer this approval and recommendation to Council for the demolition permit until A, significant details of the tenant relocation and assistance plan are presented in their full and final detail, as they'll be put on the title as part of the materials to be reviewed alongside the requested approval from this council and Toronto City Council. And also that you include on the record the city's settlement with the development, please, the developer, from the OLT process. And B, that the plan includes satisfaction of the requests for change tenants have made to city planners and other bodies, including the OLT, throughout this process. C, that you include the tenants from these buildings among the list of stakeholders that must approve any proposed change, so that it's not only city executives, but the tenants themselves, who have agency to determine if a revised proposal is better or worse for their interests. Finally, this is a process that really must be changed. It's the reason that our community is currently being filled with tent cities instead of affordable and accessible housing. And if any of you are interested, we'll sit down with each and every one of you after these proceedings and walk you through the system's problems we've witnessed and been a part of through this process in significant detail to show you exactly how these processes disadvantage tenants, and we will show you also how and why this could be improved and changed. This is a mental, physical, environmental damage, severe damage to all of us, and we are affected by it. And we want our voices to be heard. Please defer this today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Christopher. Does anybody have any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, our next listed deputant is Louise Tinker on behalf of the applicant Altry. Sorry, Louis Tinker. My apologies. Need more coffee.
No problem. Thank you, Chair and members of Council, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I am Louis Tinker. I'm the planning consultant working and assisting Altry developments with their applications for the mixed-use development at this site. I've been involved with the project since early 2020 and have knowledge of some of the key activities and applications that have been filed in connection with this project. I'm calling in today for two reasons. One is to express support for the recommendations to Council as outlined in the planning staff report, and then secondly, to make myself available to members of Council who may have questions of me or of the process. And so with that, I'll make myself available if you do have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tinker. Are there any questions of the deputant?
Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Is it Thicker?
So Mr. Tinker.
Thinker. Okay, thank you. I didn't hear it clearly. You've heard the presentation that's been made to committee by the two deputants. There's clearly a concern with respect to the replacement plan for the rental units and the impact on the residents. I'm just wondering if you could explain to us as committee what the replacement plan is for the 33 dwelling that's located at said address, which is 1625, 1633, 1641 Kingston Road, and then 52 Birchcliff Avenue.
Yes, thank you, Councillor, and through you, Chair. The tenant rental replacement and assistance proposal for this project is outlined on page 5 of the planning staff report before you. It outlines some of the key components of what that plan will include. And it includes obviously a right to return to the new development. There will be a 4-story rental apartment building on the site fronting onto Birchcliff Avenue, and tenants will have the right to return to a same type and similar rent as they experience today at Landmore Court. They'll also be entitled to a compensation package that will equal 3 months rent, which is pursuant to the Rental Tenancies Act. There'll also be a rent gap payment. This was an important discussion with the tenants and with city planning staff about not having any additional hardship to the tenants whilst they're temporarily located off-site. And so that rent gap payment will allow them to continue to pay similar rent today at another location until such time as their new unit ready on the subject site. There'll also be a financial allowance for move in and move out costs for the tenants. And then there'll be additional compensation and assistance as required for special needs, any tenants with special needs. In addition to that, obviously there are other considerations about making sure that the new tenants get a unit that has additional amenity spaces. Right now, the tenants don't benefit from indoor or outdoor amenity, and the new building that they will reoccupy will have new indoor and outdoor amenity, in-suite laundry, access to storage lockers, access to parking spaces, both vehicular and bicycle parking spaces. So there's a number of different elements to the package that is to be finalized by city planning staff.
Thank you very much for that, sir. And so just to remind us again, what is being proposed with respect to the, I guess, the conversion of this site? You're building 237 residential units and 8 live-work units. And how many buildings will you have? You're looking, is it 2 buildings? And those 2
Yes.
buildings will contain, I'll just finish the point, will contain 33 rental units as it is a replacement for what will be demolished. Is that what I'm reading here?
Yes, Councillor. There will be 2 separate buildings. One will be a mid-rise building fronting onto Kingston Road, which will have 237 residential units, 8 live-work units, and some retail at grade. And then there is on the same site is a freestanding 4-story residential rental apartment building fronting onto Birchcliff Avenue, which will be occupied by the 33 rental replacement units.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Are there any other questions of the deputant on this item? Seeing none, our next deputant is Ms. Cindy Berry.
Yes, hello. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Cindy Berry. I'm a tenant within the area. I'm also director of Tenants Have No Rights Association. I'm here on behalf of Lenmore Courts to speak today in the matters of what's happening. But before I begin, please notice Mr. Tinker said proposal when he presented his materials. Now, to close here again are asks, defer this approval and recommendation to council for the demolition permit until A, significant details of the tenant relocation assistance plans are presented in their full and final detail as they will be put on the title as part of the materials to be reviewed. Alongside the requested approvals for the council and Toronto City Council, and also that you include on the record the city's settlement with the developer from the OLT process, and B, that the plan includes satisfaction of the request for change tenants have made to city planners and other bodies, including the OLT, throughout the process. C, that you include the tenants from these buildings among the list of stakeholders that must approve any proposed change, so that it is not only city executives, but the tenants themselves who have agency to determine if a revised proposal is better or worse for their interests. Finally, this is a process that must be changed. It is the reason that our community is currently being filled with tent cities instead of affordable and accessible housing. And if any of you are interested, we'll sit down with each and every one of you after these proceedings and walk you through the system's problems we have witnessed through the process in significant detail to show you exactly how these process disadvantaged tenants, and we will show you also how and why this can be approved and changed. I would also like to know, why is it that that the developers are sucking into Scarborough Southwest and targeting our affordable homes that already exist and displacing tenants. And when they are displacing them, it takes approximately 3 years to build. And we know that the developers are in hopes that these tenants will not return. So then what? So in the meantime, within the 3 years, these tenants have to live in suitcases because nobody's going to set up their temporary homes to move back. So they have 3 years of mental distress to deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Are there any questions for the deputant?
Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Thompson, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Welcome, and thank you for being here. I just wanted to probe a little bit. You indicated, I think part of your commentary, you indicated that to defer this item until such time that the changes that the tenants are seeking and so on are incorporated as part of the process. Can you maybe just list for us here some of the changes or the changes that you're seeking and others are collaborating with you on in this particular application, please?
Of course.
Thank you.
Anna?
No, I'd like you to answer.
Oh, what is it that you guys are? Yes, we're asking for they're asking for mental health support throughout the process.
Okay.
I think when this all started, when COVID came along and everybody was on lockdown, that was bad enough. And then to get hit with the proposal that, hey, guess what? You're losing your homes. And we're going to displace you, and you don't know where you're going to be displaced. So you're going to be away from all your family, your friends, your loved ones, from everything that you have known, and have to restart God knows where. Right?
Right. So that's one.
This is one. They're asking also about, can I have this, please? Thank you.
Sure.
Safeguarding affordable rents and perpetuity, not 10 years, or in 10 years, because this will no longer even be affordable. So the developers are offering 10 years, right, for this to be affordable for 10 years. Why can't it be affordable for the duration of their lease that they're living there?
So perpetuity.
Exactly.
So no rent increase for perpetuity for those tenants who are now in the buildings.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. And the 10 years is not sufficient. You believe that there should be
extended lifetime.
Basically, an extension for
Yes.
the duration of the time that yourself or who is
My
the
children.
leasee, so it'll pass on to your children as well?
Exactly.
So would there be a need for a increase in rent with respect to, for example, if there was any repairs done in the building? Would you think that'd be fair for you to provide some increase in terms of
I
payment?
think that if there are serious repairs within the units,
Right.
Or going with the normal rental increase, what is it, 1.8% or something? With the normal rent increase.
Right. So just thank you.
Yeah.
But no, I just wanted to understand because it's really important for us to understand. So what you're saying then is that you're not necessarily asking for rent in perpetuity. You're saying that as part of a fair process, perhaps I'm hoping that you're saying that because that's what
Okay.
I'm thinking. As part of a fair process, you, who's a leasee going forward, would be prepared to pay something should there be a need for major repairs. Are you saying that or not?
No.
You're not prepared to pay
No, they're
anything?
responsible. We're renters. If there's major repairs in the unit, they're responsible to fix that. They're responsible to repair that. If
Okay,
we
and-
cause the damage, well, then that's another story. But, there are significant repairs that need to be done in the units, which I'm hoping not, because these are going to be new units.
Okay, so perpetuity, no increases, doesn't matter what would actually take place. If there is a need to repair on the landlord's area of responsibility, you say
doesn't
that?
that go with all rentals?
No, actually, that's not so, but thank you very much for your response.
It actually is so. When you rent a unit, and if something needs to be repaired in the unit, that is up to the landlord to fix. That's not up to the tenant, and the tenant should not have to pay for that.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Those are my questions.
And thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Berry. At this point, that's the end of the deputants on this item, and we're going to questions of staff. Councillor Crawford first,
Thank you.
followed by Councillor Myers, and then Councillor Manson.
Yeah, I'll try to get through these questions fairly quickly. With regard to the tenant relocation and assistance plan, can you go over, on the consultation perspective, the amount of times you have sat down with the tenants, and this is to Graham, of course, the work that has happened in notifying and working with the tenants, along with the applicant, on coming up with the arrangements for the tenant replacement plan that we have before us?
Through the chair, So we held a tenant consultation meeting in December where we went through the proposed tenant assistance plan. Since then, I've followed up with a couple tenants that have reached out by email, but there's not been another formal meeting with tenants since that original tenant consultation meeting.
So can you just, again, just go over, highlight what they were, what was communicated to them, and if there are any, with the plan that is before us today, are there any changes to what has been with them?
Okay, so there are no changes to what was presented to tenants at the consultation meeting in December, but I'll walk through what was proposed to tenants there, and it's in line with the city's practices for rental demolition applications. So all tenants, regardless of when they moved in, will get 6 months' notice to move out. This is versus 4 months required by the Residential Tenancies Act. All tenants also get the 3 months of rent compensation required under the Residential Tenancies Act. And then finally, all tenants that are considered special needs, so that's anyone 65 years or older, or who has a medical condition, whether physical or mental, that they can get a doctor's note for or some other verification, will get an additional 4 months of rent compensation. And that's anyone who lives in the household. So if you have a dependent who qualifies, even if you don't qualify, your household qualifies for that special needs compensation. Then for eligible tenants, so that's tenants who were there before the application was made. So basically tenants who moved in not knowing that there was a demolition application. There's a much more robust tenant assistance plan since they didn't have that foresight that their building would be potentially demolished. So the compensation there, the primary financial compensation is what's called a rent gap piece of financial compensation. So how that piece of compensation is calculated is we look at what are vacant rents in the CMHC zone for this area. It's Scarborough Central. It's quite a big zone. And how does that compare to a tenant's current rent? So for example, say the CMHC vacant market rent was $1,700 and a tenant's rent was $1,000. They would get a rent gap of $700 for the length of time they are going to be displaced. And that's meant to be a bit of a financial bridge between the rent they paid and the rent they might have to pay during that displacement period. On top of that, tenants get a moving allowance to assist with their moving expenses. That moving allowance is $1,500 for tenants that live in a 1-bedroom or studio unit, and it's $2,500 for tenants that live in a 2- or 3-bedroom unit. And those moving allowances are based on a survey that we completed with Toronto movers to try to get a sense of what are the expected moving costs that tenants will face. Finally, there's the right to return to a new unit once the new building is completed. That right to return, so tenants will return at rent similar to their current rent. That means that their rent can be increased by the provincial guideline during the intervening period. So if they're away for 3 years and there were 3 provincial guidelines, their rent could be increased by those 3 provincial guidelines. And once they return, for the length of their tenancy, no matter how long they stay, guidelines are the only permitted increases. And I missed one thing. The applicant is also to secure a leasing agent to help any eligible tenants find and apply to rental vacancies during that 6-month notice period.
Thank you. So again, this has been communicated to the residents. As best, I mean, we've heard otherwise from some of the residents, and I understand that. But I just want to make sure, from the perspective of the city policy, that if this is approved today, that this is what the package will look like. How will we be, or how will they be informed of the package, or what we're working with them on? How will that be communicated to them formally?
So typically there's not tenants will get notice that a decision was made by city council after that has happened, but there's generally not a formal update letter sent to tenants. It's something we could add to the process here, that tenants would get an update after we've registered an agreement, or we could do it before we register an agreement, reminding them of what was discussed at the tenant meeting, and that we have an agreement in place to secure those specific elements. But typically, tenants will get their next major update with sort of exactly what they'll be getting for compensation when they're provided with their 6-month notice.
But we can, again, with regard to your office, Graham, the potential of reaching out to again, the suggestion is we need to defer this so they can understand more what the decision, frankly, is. But we have the ability, to communicate with them, let them know, here's what your rights are, here's what has been agreed to, here's what's been negotiated, and all that. Okay, but we still have that ability to do that.
Absolutely. We can always send a letter to tenants, updating them on the process. And I think, to be clear, the city wouldn't back away from what was discussed at a tenant meeting unless we further consulted with tenants.
And you don't need a motion. This is an undertaking that could take place. I just want to make sure so my colleagues would know that this is something we can undertake. I know we notice the time hasn't. I have just a couple questions with regard to the overall application. And I just wonder if I could speak to planning to answer this. This was appealed. This development was appealed. It has gone to the OLT. Can you talk a bit about the resolution where City Council stands on this? I know some of this and I'm not anticipating or expecting to go into private on this, but can you just talk about the resolution where Council is on this overall development?
Yes, through the chair, Councillor. It's Christian from City Planning. The settlement offer made by the applicant was considered by City Council and adopted by City Council at its July meeting of 2022. There is settlement proceeding before the Ontario Lands Tribunal on the planning matters, which are subject to continued conversations on the housing piece in the fall, and a decision was released by the OLT, I believe in late October or early November. Those are all public matters. The settlement offer made to Council has been made public. And of course, the decision of the tribunal is also public.
Okay, so again, so it is public. So there's nothing at this point that is still in confidential, but everything on the decision by Council, which was supported by Council. I, in fact, didn't support that, but it was supported by overall Council. But everything is public.
That's correct. And the link is provided in the housing report to the planning solicitor's report. And the settlement attachments have been made public. So exactly what the settlement offer was that Council endorsed is public.
Last question, Councillor.
Yeah, just a quick question with regard to deferral. What are the risks? Are there any? What would the purpose? Now, again, from the deputants have suggested they'd like deferral. But can you comment on what a deferral could potentially mean or not? I mean, I'm just curious on from your perspective and on the planning side of it. I don't know if you can answer that.
Through the chair, I believe perhaps that might be best directed to legal. Mr. Mark Peel is here on the screen.
Yes, through the chair, it's Mark Peel here from legal. I mean, the matter, as you heard from Mr. Ventresca a moment ago, was settled at the Ontario Land Tribunal, and a decision is issued. A final order on the rezoning is being withheld by the tribunal, which is effectively the final zoning bylaw amendment is being withheld, pending a number of matters being satisfied. One of those matters is the approval of the rental housing demolition application, which is before you today, which includes the various rental tenant relocation and assistant matters that have been the subject of discussion. So the final order would be delayed as a result of a deferral, and that would be the consequence. There would be no zoning. We wouldn't be moving towards a zoning bylaw being issued for the site.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Next, I have Councillor Myers. Councillor Myers, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, just first, I'd just like to express thank you to the deputants that came in. I know this is a very stressful situation. I just had a couple questions of staff. Of the 33 tenants, how many were involved in the consultation process?
Don't have a specific number in front of me. I think it was about 15 tenants, though.
Okay. And just to confirm, there were no changes made to the proposed plan into the final plan?
No.
No? Okay. And when were the documents that have been referenced, when were those made public?
Through the chair, are you referring to the OLT settlement documents? I'll defer that question to someone from community planning.
Sorry, through the chair, the OLT decision, Councillor, was made at an October hearing, late October hearing. The date of the decision is December 30th, 2022. So that would be when it was released, and it would have been released to all who took part in the proceedings, which included the Birchcliff Residents Association, the applicants, and the city, plus interested parties who
So is
participant status.
Thank you. So is there any reason why the final tenant relocation assistance plan is not part of the public record of the application, of the motion or the item that's before us?
So, through the chair, the recommendations note that the tenant assistance plan should be based on a rent gap payment, so that primary form of compensation that I outlined, and the right to return at similar rent. With some of the further details, like the moving allowance, further in the report, you're right that there's not like the specific dollar amounts, but the overall components are, you know, the most significant ones are within the recommendations, and the full compensation package is discussed within the report.
Okay. Through the chair, is it normal that mental health support forms part of a tenant relocation and assistance plan? Or is there any precedent for that?
Through the chair, I don't have examples that I've seen before. We look to connect tenants with some of the free mental support, some of the free mental health supports that are available through the City of Toronto or other community agencies, and that's included in all tenant communication that we provide. But I haven't seen an example where we've secured something above and beyond. It was something I reached out to tenants to discuss afterwards, but nothing was proposed to me as in terms of what could be done for that. Just that at a high level, they would like to see something.
And my final question, regarding the safeguarding for the affordable rents, does the city have any ability to deny a rental increase that's conforming to the provincial guidelines?
I think I might need to speak to legal about how AGI, like above guideline increases, would apply to these units, because the rents are secured through our agreement, so they're a bit outside how the Residential Tenancies Act works. I think based on our agreements, AGIs generally do not apply to these units because they're secured as affordable, and AGIs could potentially make them no longer an affordable unit. And I can outline a bit more about like how our rent protections work for these units if you'd like.
Thanks. Could we have legal comment on this as well, please?
Me?
Through the chair, that is a question I think for which that we would have to be consulting further with our client stakeholder groups in housing prior to giving an answer on that.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mantas, you have 5 minutes.
To Christian or to Grant, just want you to sorry, I just want you to on recommendation the affordable rents and for the 10-year, it's part of this
No.
Mr. Chair, we're not
Sorry,
able to hear
Councillor,
him.
we're having trouble hearing you. Could maybe try turning off your video and see if that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Is this better?
Perfect.
Okay. The question is, in 1B for the 10-year rental agreement, is this part of the affordable house? Is this part of an affordable housing component, or is this an agreement that was made between, I believe it's part of the agreement that the property owner had made for the for the project?
Through the chair, we secure units as affordable or mid-range based on the rents at the existing buildings as of the time of application. When we secure units as affordable or mid-range, what that means is for a 10-year period, any lease that starts within that first 10-year period has those rent restrictions. Those leases can only be increased by the guideline for the length of that tenancy. So say someone moves in year 1 and lives there for 15 years. For that entire 15-year period, they would be protected by guideline increases. Likewise, say someone moved in year 9 and lived there for 15 years, that entire 15 years they lived there would be protected by the guideline. So the restrictions work for any lease executed in that first 10-year period. Any lease executed outside of that 10-year period no longer has any of the restrictions, either initial rent or increases to rent on an annual basis.
So this is not part of housing.
Through the chair, Councillor, I believe you're asking, and just to clarify, if this has a, I'll say old regime section 37 contribution.
Yes.
And okay, so through the chair again, the approval date of the application was after the community benefit charge, or sorry, the in principle approval. So the community benefit charge regime is in effect. So this will be subject to a community benefit charge, and we did not negotiate section 37 contribution under the previous regime for community benefits. But we will be entering into a section 111 agreement to secure the rental housing and affordability matters, as well as the tenant relocation plan, which if you need, Graham can comment further on.
No, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a quick question. Sorry. Is it possible to please?
Oh, no. Yes, the chair.
Sorry, who's asking a question?
Cindy Berry.
Mr. Chair, it's a member of the public who've already deputed, and that's not our policy and procedures.
Yep. Sorry, we're asking questions of staff by city councillors at this moment.
Mr. Chair, I do have some questions.
Yep, Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, with respect to our policy on rental replacement as it relates to demolition, what aspect of our policy is being contravened as it relates to this particular application?
Through the chair, none of the aspects of our policies are being
Right,
contravened.
that's what I was hoping you'd say. Thank you for that. Let me just flip down. I think it's page 5-7. I wanted just to get some clarity. Okay, so on page 5 of 10, and it goes into page 6, it has here, it says the tenant's assistance will be provided to all eligible tenants residing at said address in the 33 units existing dwelling, etc. It goes on and it says all eligible tenants will receive the following, and it lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items there. But then it says, after it says at least 6 months notice of the date that they must vacate their rental unit, and it lists 5 items there, and then it has an or on page 6, which when I look at it really quickly, I think the difference between the prior and the latter is that there is a rental gap payment. What is the sort of rationale, and how does a tenant benefit? Can they have both options, or the option, the distinction is that the rent gap piece? Why the difference between the two?
Through the chair, so there's 2 options here, and it's because the applicant wanted to leave open the option of finding, if tenants want to take it, alternative accommodation for tenants. It's a provision under the Residential Tenancies Act that they can offer alternative accommodation, and tenants at their option can choose to take it. So the way the second set of bullets would work is if the owner or applicant was able to find suitable alternative accommodation, and I would expect that it would be at the same rent tenants currently pay, they made that offer to tenants, and tenants could choose to take it. So basically, similar to the rent gap payment, it's meant to be there's no financial impact to the tenants. They continue paying their same rent in a similar type of unit. Under that scenario, tenants would still get the moving assistance since they would have to move, and they would still get special needs compensation, because that special needs compensation is in part meant to help for people who may have more challenging moves or might need additional, stuff to help set up their apartment appropriately. Where they refuse, or if they choose not to take an apartment from Altry, or there's nothing available, the rent gap is what will happen. But the option is always at the discretion of tenants. There's no scenario where what they have to do is dictated by anybody else.
Fair enough. Now, in light of the current situation with respect to rental accommodation in the city of Toronto, the displacement, and I'll use that term, of these 33 units, how do we balance the demand and supply impact to the conditions that the residents would be facing in terms of getting a place so they can rent at these levels, and where would those locations be? And I guess another part of, if I just ask you to follow through in the questioning, will the landlord play a role with respect to assisting the tenants in locating suitable rental accommodations?
We'll try to answer this in all the parts through the chair. So first is part of the balancing act is that extended notice period, because we recognize it's a lot harder to find suitable accommodation in Toronto given the low vacancy rates. So that is part of why we secure a 6-month notice period instead of a 4-month notice period for tenants to vacate. Second, knowing how challenging the rental market is part of why the city moved towards a rent gap financial assistance piece that looks at what are rents as reported by CMHC in the local zone compared to a tenant's current rent. And then finally, the landlord does have a small role. I mean, they provide a leasing agent to help tenants look for and apply to units to reduce the burden. I would also note, I think many landlords are motivated to help tenants as well, because one of the conditions for their final permit is that units are vacant, that they have vacant possession of the building. So there's no way for them to get their final demolition permit without tenants actually having been able to move out.
Right. So I have 2 more questions for you, please. On the 1,500, which you indicated earlier as part of your presentation relating to the rental gap, the sort of financial compensation, it's 1,500. Is that a one-time amount? And then my second question, if we just, because I can't see my time, so I'm not sure how much time I have. With respect to the development of the new units, specifically the rental units, will that process begin before the other 2 buildings or the other buildings being developed, so as to ensure that the residents who are there now could simply move to a new building, which is a rental building, to accommodate their needs?
Through the chair, so I'll answer.
Do you know? Well,
yeah. So first, the $1,500 was the moving allowance.
Okay.
The rent gap payment is based on that rent differential I spoke to. So for example, if CMHC reported vacant rents of $1,700 for a 1-bedroom unit and you rented a 1-bedroom unit for $1,000, your rent gap is $700. That $700 is multiplied by the length of time tenants are expected to be displaced. So say it is 36 months, they would get 700 times 36 when they provide vacant possession of their unit. So they get it all up front. Where the displacement period takes longer than anticipated, I think in this instance we anticipated a 30-month displacement. Tenants will have that topped up. So say we secured 30 months because that was the expected displacement, and displacement goes an additional 6 months, tenants would receive a 6-month top up to their initial rent gap payment. As to timing of sort of like those replacement units, we have provisions about when the new replacement building needs to be completed, and it's tied to certain triggers with their other building here. But there's no other requirement for providing rental housing during the displacement period or, on site until the actual replacement building is completed.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there anybody else with questions of staff? Sorry, Councillor Crawford, do you have more questions?
No, I don't, sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. I thought I saw your hand going up. At this point, so speakers on this item. Councillor Crawford?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. For my colleagues, let me sort of lay out what has happened over the last couple of years in this so you get a good understanding of what has happened. An application came into my ward on Kingston Road a number of years ago, pre-pandemic, to put in a building which was too large, too big, too dense for what the community wanted, what I wanted to support. A community association, Birchcliff Residents Association, was set up, in fact, to fight this. One of the first proposals by the applicant, who we had challenges with, but we eventually worked through that, was to relocate all of the tenants about 1.5 kilometers, 2 kilometers away outside of the community into another building that they were actually looking to build. And, you know, I fought that. We fought that with the residents. And, you know, ideally, you're supposed to move people within the local community, and 2 kilometers away wouldn't be considered that. Fought that, worked with the developer, and in fact, the developer agreed to relocate the residents a couple of meters just behind the location. So that was a big win when we're looking at this whole process. It was my goal, along with the community's goal, with the Birchcliff Residents Association, to work with the developer to be able to figure out a common ground on what this development looked like. Unfortunately, the developer did take this to the OLT. And in fact, the minute, and if you have had any experience in this, once it goes to the OLT, it takes the community out of the conversation, unfortunately, takes them out of the debate. And it's very frustrating for me as a councillor making a decision. But it's challenging. It's challenging for a lot of the residents who I've spoken with over the time. But again, it did go to the OLT, and agreements did take place. The Birchcliff, the city, of course, this did come in October, and we would have voted on that. I did not support it when it did come to council, even though it got through, because there were still challenges. I have some fundamental challenges about the size of the building and all that, but ultimately, council made the decision to do that. And the Birchcliff Residents Association actually, they had party status, and they did support the resolution that came. So as much as it was a difficult process, which it was, all parties did agree to the ultimate end piece of what this is going to look like. With regard to the rental relocation assistance plan, as pointed out by staff, we have a very, and again, is it fair? Is it not fair? That's up for debate, and I think there's some agree and don't agree. But I think we, as a city, went well beyond what provincial rules and legislation talks about. It was one of my goals to ensure that any of the tenants who will have to be relocated, and I recognize that 2 or 3 year period while they have to move out and come back in is a challenge. And when you talk about the mental and the anguish, I understand. I know both Cindy and we've talked about this. That is a challenge. But one of the goals, again, is looking at to ensure that there's no out-of-pocket expenses for any of the residents. Now, it's easy to say that, but I think the package that was negotiated above provincial rules and regulations, I think is fair. Is it perfect? It's not perfect. And there are challenges, that will be faced by some of the residents. My office, and again, as we will communicate that to them, but we will continue to work with the residents. So it's my commitment to the residents to ensure that they have a proper process of being relocated, and that's finding another apartment within the community. It's not going to be easy, but the commitment is to try to figure that out. But again, this is a process that we've had to follow, going to appeal. And again, it's not perfect, but it's something. And again, I just want to finish off on the deferral, because that was the request by some of the community members. The deferral is not going to change the outcome, unfortunately, as much as I would like it. What was concerning to the residents that they were informed. So, and the commitment is to be able to inform them, even though it is part of our recommendations, is to inform and sit down and have a meeting with the residents to say, this and here's the situation, here's where the outcomes are. And the next step is as we get into this, there'll be individual conversations with all of the residents, because they will all get different packages depending on how long they've lived in the building. If you've been there for 30 years, you're going to get a much bigger package. If you're there a couple of years, a little bit different. But those conversations, so this isn't over. We're still going to be having those conversations with them, and I'm hoping, again, to do the best we can to make this in a difficult situation as best as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Other speakers on this item? Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Councillor Crawford for the hard work that I know he's done on this project. And it has come to Scarborough Council several times now and has gone to OLT. And, you know, I take to heart his remarks that there was a process, the process was followed, the city has followed their obligations and their rules. And so I'm prepared to support this today.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to the deputants that have come to speak to us this morning. I appreciate having you here and to hear firsthand your perspective on this particular process and the difficult challenges that you're being faced with respect to your having to, you know, relocate in the very near future as part of this particular application. It's not lost on us, but what I do think, based on what I heard as part of your presentation, which was a deferral so that we have more time to have some further conversation around your concerns. It's clear to me that that process, as part of this decision that we're making here today, is available to you. It was mentioned that you were unsure as to what, I guess, the entitlements were and so on. Through the questioning and so on, staff have actually indicated that there are benefits, however you may sort of characterize it. It may not be as you wish because, as I'm hearing, to do nothing would be preferred based on the presentation, or to do something based on the deferral and coming back at a later date with respect to more information and or additional benefits such as mental health compensation as a possibility. We've heard from staff that the opportunity is there if there is a case where there's a need for that. And I take them at their words that they would try. The local councillor, and this is not the first time we've seen this particular matter before us, has worked really hard to try to address the needs of the community, needs of the residents themselves with respect to the 33, of which there are currently 29. So nonetheless, there's an impact. I think all of us have had the experience where we've dealt with these replacement, requests, and they're not always, they're challenging, of course, and this is not unique to you and those who are impacted by the decision of the applicant to develop 237 residential units. So on one hand, we're getting more housing stock in the city. It has an impact to the 33 units that are there now, but we are required as part of our policy, and of course, just basic humanity, that there is a need to ensure that, the residents will not be homeless. I don't have any information that suggests that they will be, because that's not something that we want to add to the current conditions that are facing many residents in our city. And so when I look at this, the ask that you're asking for, which is more dialogue, more conversation, so on, that opportunity is there. I do agree with the local councillor and so on with respect to the challenges when the matter goes to the OLT. In my own ward, we're dealing with the Golden Mile, which will see approximately an additional 60,000 people move in where there are no people today. And the consultation that has taken place has been rather absent of the community because of the ability to go to the OLT to negotiate without the community being involved. That's not the decision that we want. And I see that, the challenge that you've experienced and so on. So I take to heart your presentation. It's heartfelt, strong, that you've communicated here to us here today, and thank you for that. I hope that never changes. But I do think that with your local councillor and working with you and so on, ma'am, this is not an opportunity for you to provide input at the moment, but I will just be very clear. Your local councillor has committed and has worked through a process and in order to assist the community. And so I'm going to support what is actually before us today. And again, I want to thank you very much for the presentation. So, Mr. Chair, those are my remarks. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other speakers on this item?
None allowed to speak.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we do, I believe we have, so there's no motions other than the recommendation.
Chair, may I say something? I'm sorry, Chair, may I say something?
No, sorry, at this point, we've heard from members of the public
Okay.
that are registered. So the process now, we're voting on the recommendations before us.
And I'll ask for a recorded vote, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, all in favor of the recommendations before us?
Recorded, please.
Okay, recorded vote, please. Councillor Crawford, Deputy Mayor McKelvey, Councillor Myers, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Ainsley.
Councillor,
So this item passes.
Mr. Chair, I did not have my hand up. I'll be voting in the negative.
Have the clerk read it out.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Okay. Can we do that again, please?
Can we have the clerk do it, because she's in the room?
Sure. All in favor of the recommendations?
Councillor Thompson, Councillor Myers, Deputy Mayor McKelvey, Councillor Ainsley, and Councillor Mantis. Any opposed? Councillor Crawford. The motion passes.
All right. Thank you to the clerk. Our next item is SC 2.2, 120 Donside Drive, an application for a fence exemption in Ward 20. We have two speakers listed. Sorry, I'm just going to my speakers list. Two speakers listed on this item. The first speaker is Elizabeth Moyer, followed by Gina Wafa.
Sorry, who's the first speaker?
Elizabeth Moyer.
Oh, that's me. Thank you so much, Councillor.
All right, Ms.
Appreciate
Moyer,
it.
you have 5 minutes to address Community Council whenever you're ready.
Thank you. As you know, most of you know me personally. I've been in the community for over 35 years and been very active in my community. I have been supportive of changes in my community, which is why Scarborough Southwest is one of the most sought out developer areas in all of Toronto. The considerations for this exemption are the following. While it may be their side and back lot, this is my front lot. This is my driveway. There are very clear indications of what is allowed in your 174-page bylaws of what is supposed to be in a front lawn and the driveway. It's also the only side that has a sidewalk. So every day, the children from Regent Heights Public School walk to and from Scarborough Southwest Boys and Girls Club. Every inch of this fence creates more of a wind tunnel and snow tunnel, putting these little children at risk, which is concerning. Previously, we had a chain link fence on this side, which allowed the air and snow to blow freely and naturally through the front lawns. This fence has now changed that. This property has a history of ignoring bylaws and then asking for forgiveness. The previous councillor, Colin Berardinetti, actually opposed this development from the beginning. I respected the change. Now I regret that I did, because it's been nothing but challenges with bylaws and ignoring rules that are in place. This is a highly sought after neighborhood, as I mentioned, with developers. And so any change in the bylaws is setting a precedent for the future. We need to be concerned about what our front lawns look like, and that when these mega homes, monster homes get developed, I have another one at 116 Donside now being developed as well as a neighbor. We have to be cognizant that responsible development is very important. And so I would ask that you turn this request down, because I do believe you're setting a dangerous precedent for the citizens of Scarborough Southwest, especially for front lawns, especially for safety of young children, and because we only do have sidewalks on one side. That is my request of this committee. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Moyer. Any questions of the deputy? Seeing none, thank you very much for your time this morning. The next applicant is Ms. Gina Waifa.
Morning.
Good morning,
Can you
Ms.
hear me?
Waifa. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Hi, good morning. My name is Gina. I'm the owner of 120 Donside Drive. So I heard what Elizabeth Moore, which my neighbor was telling. I think there's like some kind of confusion. So the fence that we are talking about, it's located, it's like north side connected to my garage, south side connecting to our house, and then east side toward the sidewalk, and west side to my backyard. So there's no connection. Like there wasn't any chain fence there. When we bought the house in 2018, this fence was built before we bought the house. And on top, the required fence height based on city bylaw supposed to be 2 meter, but that's Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep, we can still hear you.
Sorry. So the fence is only exceeding 20 centimeter. The fence is located beside the sidewalk, which gives us more privacy, safety. So there are like incidents are happening. People are like crossing, like throwing some stuff in our backyard. So I think there need a bit clarification. I don't know why Elizabeth Moore, Miss Moore was saying that there was a chain fence. There wasn't any chain fence. There's no any safety issue to the public or anything. And if there's any further information needed, then I can provide it. Or there is any question, I'm eager to answer. And as well, the notice that I received is saying that the fence's height is 2.4 meter, which is incorrect. It's 2.2. And yeah, and it's not creating any issue or any safety issue or any hindering or any problem with the neighbors. So, and it's not like connected to any neighbor house or anything. So yeah, and then on top, if I remove the fence, which was built before we bought the house, because it's only 20 centimeter height, first of all, it's going to cost us a lot. Secondly, the safety and the privacy that's provided, that we will appreciate as a family, and we will appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Waifa. Does anybody have any questions of the deputant? Councillor Crawford?
Yeah, thank you for coming. So just, can you clarify, did you purchase when you purchased the property, was the fence already built?
Yes.
Okay, so
we purchased the house in 2018. The fence was already there.
Oh, okay, so you didn't go through the permit process and all of that to find out that you were only allowed 2 meters?
No.
So yeah, okay. So, and I'm looking at the picture here that if you brought it into compliance, it looks like you probably would just have to remove, it looks like a lattice portion on the top. It seems to be about the right height. So the only change that would happen is bringing that lattice off. Would that be an assumption? Again, I'm just looking at the picture. I haven't been to the site. Would that be correct from your perspective?
Yes.
Okay, and you're suggesting so you're still going to have a 6-foot high fence there, but it's just that little bit of extra 20 centimeters or whatever it is that would have to be changed, and you're just asking for the exemption because of that.
Yes, please. It will be, so if I remove the top portion, then we're going to have a fence less than 6 feet. And but that 20 centimeter, if it's giving me and my family more privacy and more safety, and it's not hindering or bothering or creating any issue to the sidewalk walkers or the neighbors, I think I hope it will be considered, and I'll get the exception.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Other questions of the deputant? Seeing none, questions of staff?
Yeah, just a quick question if I could.
Councillor Crawford?
Yeah, so just a question to staff on this. It's allowed 2 meters. It's 2.4 meters. Was that 2 point, and the resident is saying that it's actually, it's 2.2 meters. So where do you determine, or where do you do the rule of where it is on the side of the sidewalk or on the other side? I'm just curious how you determine 2.4 or maybe 2.2. And I don't know if staff are online.
Sorry, staff available for
questions? My apologies, Mr. Chair. I was on mute. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of council. For the record, my name is James Slocum, SLOCUM. I'm the supervisor in the East District. I did listen to the speaker, who's the registered property owner. They were 100% correct. I'm looking at the body of the report. It speaks to 2.4 meters. In review of the officer's notes, the fence in question that's before you today is actually 2.23 meters. So we are speaking of an exemption of 0.23 meters.
Thank you. And again, when did you, it sounded as if when I was speaking with the deputant that they purchased the property back in, I think it was 2018, and the fence was already there. So this is now 2023, 5 years later. Were you aware, or have you had any complaints on the height of the fence prior to the infraction that you saw?
So staff received this complaint on or about October of 2022. I don't have any prior knowledge if there's anything prior. If you want to stand down, I could get access to these. But I can confirm that the complaint came in on October 2022.
Okay, so it came in considerably later after the fence was built. Okay, thank you. No questions. No further questions.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, speakers?
Yeah, I'll speak.
Councillor Crawford?
Yeah, I'd like to move staff recommend, I think it's number 1, to approve the exemption. And again, I recognize that where the two deputants were coming from with regard to their opinions. I'm looking at the picture here, and you're allowed to have a 6-foot fence, 2-meter fence, a little over 6 feet. This is a little bit larger than that. And if we did remove it down, it would be approximately 20 centimeters, and it looks like just a small lattice portion. We have, as a council, in the past, given many exemptions that are quite similar to this, in fact. I don't look at this, it'd be different if it was a front where it was like 1.4 meters, and we're looking at an exemption of 6, but this is a minor exemption. Recognizing there are, concerns from one of the residents that are beside, but this is typical of the kind of exemptions we have done in the past, so I will approve or move to approve the exemption on this particular house. And again, comment, when this house, this fence, as I understand, was built probably 4 or 5 years ago, and we were just getting the complaint, in the last 6 months or just prior to 2022. So I don't know if that says anything about how long or why we didn't see this before. But again, this fence has been up for a considerable amount of time. Now, when you're looking at the original owner who would have built this house, they had an expectation that they should have followed the process. Clearly, they didn't do that, but unfortunately, it wasn't caught. But again, I do consider this just a minor exemption, and I'm willing to support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Crawford. Other questions of the mover? Seeing none. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none, so we have a motion before us moved by Councillor Crawford. All in favor of the motion? And that carries. Our next item is SC 2.4, 16 Summerton Place, an application for a fence exemption. We have one in Ward 25. We have one registered speaker. Bart Haber.
Sorry to interrupt to the chair. The deputant for item 4 is Mingheng Lu.
Oh, sorry, I have my apologies. Yep, so I'm reading the list wrong. Sorry, one registered deputant on number 4, 16 Summerton Place, application for offense exemption in Ward 22. My apologies. The speaker is Mingheng Lu.
Oh. Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'd like to just share my screen regarding our one slide that I prepared, if that's possible.
Yep.
Thank you.
And you have 5 minutes to speak whenever you're ready.
Okay. It seems that I cannot share this content.
Sorry to interrupt to the chair. It just takes a moment.
Okay, 1 second.
All right, there we go. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready. We can see your shared screen.
Sure, thank you. Yep. Good morning, Mr. Chair and the Community Council. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present kind of my view of the construction that was done on 16 Summerton Place. Just to begin, the residents of 16 Summerton Place and us, we have been on good terms, and we have been okay with all the construction that they have done so far. The only thing that was concerning us is the fence that was built on top of their pool, which including the pool, it was completed last summer. So here is kind of a slide of what perspective of our backyard looked like before the fence was built. So we had a kind of a open view, and it was you can see there was a lot of trees that we can see. And just kind of moving on to the next slide, right? So during end of summer last year, they did build this pool with a deck, and we are absolutely okay with that. However, at the very end of the construction, there was this fence that was built, and we weren't approached by the owner, so we did go over to him, and he mentioned that this fence will be around 6 foot in height. But after the construction was done, this was measured to be around 10 feet high, and there was an inspector from 311 who measured the fence, and they confirmed that it was over the city limit. So you can see this is a picture of the construction while it was happening. And after the construction was done, there was just some concerns I wanted to list out in the presentation. So number one, the fence does kind of block off a huge section, and on top of that, it's built on top of the deck of the pool. So that kind of added to the additional height, and it makes the backyard feel enclosed and cramped. And we do have a garden that's close by the fence, and it does block sunshine there. And just to emphasize that, the fence from the ground level is around 10 feet in height, and it can impact the value of our house. And just to emphasize once again, this is the before, and then this is the after picture of when the fence is built. And we'd just like to ask the Community Council if you cannot approve this fence exemption, but instead have the owner shorten the fence to within the city limit. And thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the deputant? No questions of the deputant? Okay. Questions of staff on this item?
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Mansis?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's down. Is the be granted the exemption due to the fact that the pool has been built, or is it only strictly because of height?
Sorry to interrupt to the chair. We cannot hear the councillor.
Is this better?
Thank you.
I can hear you now, Councillor.
The question is that the height exemption, is it only restricted due to the height, or would it have been, or is it going to be also considering the fact that the pool was built for security reasons and safety reasons?
Mr. Chair, through you, the height in question and the report before you pertains to the height of privacy screen around the pool.
So, it's only because of the height. I mean, if it was lower, would it have an impact on safety? If someone jumped over the fence, would there be an easier access to the pool?
To answer your question, your question pertains to the pool enclosure, which is the perimeter fence, which is the chain link fence surrounding the property. This is merely a privacy screen not pertaining to the safety of the pool enclosure.
I see. Okay.
Sorry, Councillor, is that the end of your questions?
That's the end of my questions.
Okay, all right. Other questions on this item of staff? Seeing none, speakers on this item?
Mr. Chair, I had my hand up. You probably
sorry,
can't see me.
Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Yeah,
My apologies.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just through you to staff, there's a gradation in elevation differential. Is that correct at this, between the, I guess, the speaker who spoke and asked us not to grant the approval and the subject property? Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Do we know what that height is?
I do not.
Okay. But in any event, the wall of the pool is exposed. Is that what I'm seeing there? There's a wall there in addition to the additional fencing that's been put in. It's being determined as a privacy screen.
You are correct, Councillor Thompson. That's the edge of the pool and the privacy screen. I asked staff this work week the exact height. The height from grade exceeded the height on the measuring tape, which means it exceeded 25 feet height.
Right. That was going to be my question, but you've read my mind. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Because I can't see, but on the last two slides, when I look at the slide, I can make an assumption, but I don't know for a fact, but if you can help me to understand, I'm assuming that the speaker's property, because he has indicated that the impact that it's having on his garden and I guess just his property, I'm presuming that that would be his backyard facing the backyard of the pool. And I don't know what the directions are. I'm not able to sort of ascertain that. But what I'm trying to understand is whether or not there is a clear line of sight from a lower area looking at the more sloped ridge and or a bit of a buffer there, whether or not there'll be a sight line direct, let's say, from a kitchen or a bathroom that looks into the corresponding neighbor's pool, or to be able to, I don't have any concern that would be, I guess, apparent as a result of the necessity or the need to actually have this privacy fence that's, in essence, 25 feet high. Do you know? I'm just curious.
Councillor Thompson, I did have a first-person conversation with staff this week, and it's my understanding that there's a clear, unobstructed vantage point from the deputy yard into the app. Correct.
Okay. So is this a precedent? I mean, I don't recall my time here seeing something like this before. Are you familiar with other types of requests and other types of enclosed area which would suggest the necessity and need for a privacy screen of this kind? I mean, could there be shrubbery that could be planted there that could perhaps do the same thing, which would be, shall I say, less impactful to the community on this site?
Councillor Thompson, you are correct. It's a report that we don't typically see at community council, merely because it's a privacy screen, not a boundary line fence. So that makes it a nuance. The other addition to that is, like you said, the excessive height of the said privacy screen.
All right. Okay. May I ask just one final question through you, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Mr. Slocum, given your experience, which is extensive, what are your concerns with respect to this request?
I don't know if concern would be the word to use. As you know, municipal licensing standards.
Well, then, if I can then remove the word concern, and what are the policy challenges that you envision if we were to approve this request today?
So if you would approve it, I guess there would be precedents before community council that a privacy screen of this height, I guess, can see an individual can seek exemption for a privacy screen of this type. The other matter would be if you were to approve it. I guess that's really the only item that the city would have concern with, is that there would be precedents for this considerable height.
Thank you, Mr. Slocum. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other questions of staff from councillors on this item? Councillor Myers?
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, just a quick question on clarification. Is there a difference in the height allowances between a privacy screen and a fence? Or are they treated the same for these purposes? And the exemption that we're being asked to approve, is that just for the fence itself or for the fence in addition to the gradation elevation?
It would be the fence on top of the pool itself. The unfortunate part is I can't speak to the height of the fence because it's measured at grade, and again, it exceeded the measuring tape of the staff. I can't. Normally, I'd be able to. Normally, I'd be able to advise council on the exact height, which is the reason why we're all here, is for the exemption of the exact height. But unfortunately, I cannot give it. Oh, thank you. I did ask the officer to give me in her best. It's approximately 15 feet.
Sorry, Councillor Myers, is that the end of your questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Okay, all right. Speakers on this item. Councillor Mantis?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to close the video in case the sound is going to be better.
Okay.
Now, saying that I see that the homeowner is not present in this meeting today, and the fact that of the height and measurement, can we defer this item forward and then come back so the view of the homeowner will make a decision?
That's up to you, Councillor. If you want to move a motion to that extent, we can do that.
To the chair, sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, but I couldn't hear. Is the ward councillor deferring and for how many cycles? I apologize, but it was we couldn't catch that.
Oh, no problem, Ellen. Yeah, I
would like
believe Councillor Mantis would like to defer.
Do a motion to defer the item for next community council.
Sorry, Madam Clerk, did you get that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. So Councillor Mantis is moving a motion to defer this item to the next Scarborough Community Council meeting. Does anybody have any questions of the mover? Seeing none. Thank you, Councillor Mantis. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none, so we have a motion to defer this item to our next meeting of Scarborough Community Council. All in favor? That carries. And so this item has been deferred until the next meeting of Scarborough Community Council. All right, our next item. Sorry. Our next item is SC 2.257 Dunwatson Drive. There is an application for a fence exemption. This is in Ward 25, and we do have a registered speaker, Mr. Bart Habar.
Good morning. I was just wondering, do you have all the pictures that I sent in? I don't know how this works. I have hard copies of the photographs of the fence.
We have pictures in the report.
Oh, okay.
And if you sent additional ones, they would be displayed. I don't know.
I have additional ones.
Then those aren't available over and above what's in the report.
Okay, just what I sent.
But you can put them up.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a projector screen in front of you.
Right here? Oh, okay. Good day. My name is Bart Hebor, and I'm the owner of 7 Dunwatson Drive in the lovely neighborhood of Centennial. This fence exemption is part of a larger pool fence enclosure for our swimming pool, which we finally completed this fall after a 2-year nightmare with a contractor who collects deposits from many customers and doesn't show up for months at a time. My Oasis Construction Inc. left us with an unfinished pool, about 60% completed last June. See Google reviews. I wrote up a Google review for this. It's quite something. The fence in question here, the Juliet gate that we had installed, was custom made by Abaco Railing and Custom Ironworks of Scarborough. It meets all specifications with regards to Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 447, fences. According to this code, the fence must be 1 meter from the basement door. Oh, sorry, that's it there. Oh, great. It must be 1 meter from the basement door. It must be 1 meter from the basement door. However, because of space restrictions, as you can see in these pictures that we have, it was impossible to do. Because on the left side, on one side of the walkout from the basement, that's the east side, is a utility shed. We can just see that over by the meter. And on the other side, the west side, is the kitchen wall, which is our greenhouse kitchen. This fence that we constructed here is 4 feet high. It's steel construction with a 4-foot-high self-closing locking steel gate, according to code. It is mounted on a poured concrete wall with large concrete bolts into the concrete. We decided to place it on the concrete wall as 1 meter would have been impossible due to space restrictions on either side. You really couldn't get into the shed, which is my utility room, very easily. So we mounted on the concrete to make it better for strength and security, which is the primary issue here. It's very secure. I also have a letter from my neighbor, Ed Horowski, who lives right behind me on number 3 Invermarsh Drive. And Ed writes, My name is Ed Horelski, and I am Bart and Yola Hebor's neighbor at 3 Invermarsh Drive. Their backyard fence faces the side of my house. Bart and Yola invited me to their backyard to have a look at the fence and gate that has been recently installed. The fence and gate look great in my opinion and has been solidly and professionally installed, fitting in with the design of their house and the backyard. In my opinion, their entire backyard looks great with all the work that's recently been completed. I'm happy to have their backyard facing my house and don't have any issue with how it looks. So this is the straight front view. And I have a few other views here. This is over to the, nice projector. This is the kitchen wall over here. And then over here you can see the shed. It's the door to the basement, and the shed is right here. And here's the concrete. This is the entrance to our basement. It's a poured concrete wall with poured concrete steps, and that's the shed on that side. So it's very narrow if I had to do a meter, and we decided to try this here. And this is looking straight out at the pool. And one more picture I have. This is it right here. And here's how the fence is mounted. It's mounted onto the concrete. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Hebauer?
Yes, Jack.
Thank you. And I know you've been working through this process for quite some time. And
2 years.
yeah, I know.
There's a problem with these contractors. We decided to start this pool just at the beginning of COVID.
Right.
I have a bit of arthritis. We're both in our 70s. We love the neighborhood. I've been in the neighborhood since 71. I started teaching at Centennial Road in 71. And I always said, I'm going to move into this neighborhood sometime when I have the money.
Now, and just for process, I mean, you're bringing this forward. You want to be compliant and make sure you have all the permissions that are necessary.
Just so I'm compliant.
Right. And like this didn't come to us because there was any complaints. This is you trying to do due diligence just to make sure everything's fine.
Yes.
Okay. And then you're confident that the way this fence is built, like the real reason for having this fence is to make sure people don't fall in the pool, right? So the way this is set up, it's fully enclosed. There's no way for somebody to walk out the door and fall in the pool.
There's absolutely no way. If you look
all
at
safety concerns have been met. And so you're just really doing this out of, due diligence to make sure you're following process. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming in today. And I know this fence, it was coming up and deferred and a few things have happened. So thank you for your patience with it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Other questions on this item to the deputant? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir. We'll now take this back into committee. Questions of staff? No questions of staff. Speakers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the fence exemption and just thank the applicant for trying to do the right thing here and go through the process in the right way. And given there's no safety concerns, I'm happy to move this.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Deputy Mayor McKelvey is moving approval of the fence exemption. All in favor?
Thank you.
None opposed, and that carries.
Okay.
Our next item is SC 2.6, 20 Littleleaf Drive, an application for a fence exemption. This is in Ward 25, Scarborough Rouge Park. We have two deputants, Adam Wheats and Drajika Wheats. Good morning. You have 5 minutes to address the committee whenever you're ready.
Thank you for the time that you are giving me to speak. Good morning for everybody, and I would like to say on the discussing on the height of the fence that the next door neighbor made it on his own with his own nails. But the front looks ugly to my eye, look ugly from the street. You can hardly see from my window the sidewalk or people who they walk there. And that thing has to be approved. No one has that high fence to the front as they did on their own. Now that he's having a camera built by himself on his roof, he didn't even go by the law to make the fence proper way, 6 feet high. I did call 311 to make on my own fence. They told me I cannot go more than 6 feet. Some people, they can go higher, and I would like to know if that can be changed to brought to normal size. It's look ugly, it's look bad, the height look bad. Previous owners before them, they made a 6 feet high fence, which is all then stand on the end of the property. And they used to come, they lean the fence to stay stronger. So with the new fence that he just made, it's did half a way to his property, because I called survey. They done the they measured the property, and there is the things that from the corner of his house, he has to move in his property, at least by the end of the fence, 1 meter. So what I would like to know, is it possible that he can make to the right by law fence, and the bottom of the fence that he created, the post that he created, concrete them, they are all, you can see on my property, it's ugly for my side of the house. I would like to make a new fence. I called the contractor, and I just gonna wait for you people to approve whatever I have to do to measure the things to be done right way. If it's possible to be done right way, I thank you, the councillor, and all of you. There is an issue between us in the past, even now. Now, especially, I don't have time to deal with them. I just lost my man, and I'm in process of weeping and grieving. So with the new fence there, I will be protected, but as long as it's the same level, it will look nice, proper, and that's the reason. I did take the old fence down that I had at 4 feet on the front, because when I was cutting the grass, there was always issue that I went too much on their side, on the driveway, which they increased their driveway. So what I'm asking, if the first panel of the front of their height fence can be at least placed, the board can be taken and space could be made so I can see the street, I can see the sidewalk, and kids when they're going to school. That would be giving me pleasure to have a view there. I'm a first owner of that house. They are third owner of that house. Never had an issue with previous owner. I have lots of issue with them. It starts with down pipe. They turn on us water. When I moved, they report me to the police, and it went on and on. So now, like I said, I'm asking just fence to put on my property to make sure that it's a level and to live freely on the side. That's all I have to ask for.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions of the deputy?
Thank you.
Question, Mr. Chair?
Councillor Thompson?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Ma'am, thank you very much for being here today. You currently have a fence on your property? Do you have a fence on your property now?
No, I took it all.
So it's been removed.
With my own, on my own knees. because my husband passed away and I'm trying to do as much as I can.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. But so you no longer have the fence, and I look at the, I guess, picture on page 7 of 11. It shows two fences, but your neighbor's fence and your fence. But you've removed your fence, correct?
I removed the fence because I had to move forward to their property.
Yes, just part of the fence. I'll explain more when I talk to you.
Okay, fair enough. Then I'll maybe just wait till you come up, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other councillors have questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you very much. The next deputant, Adam Wheats.
Thank you.
Does this turn on automatically or? It's on? Okay, it's on the camera picture.
Yes.
Okay. This is the view of walking down the side. Her property was beautifully manicured, taken care of while she won awards from Raymond Chow for a nice looking front yard. This was put up halfway through. He put the boards up in between, right? Okay, that's the fence height. From the front of the garage back, there was no inclination, no incline of the property line. The grade is same all the way through. This is the height, the highest one he has. It's 94 inches, which is 17 inches above code. Looking towards the front of the house, see how it starts elevating up and up? Oops. Again, looking down the side, looking back into it. This is from the driveway looking in. This is what she sees looking in her front yard that had awards. This is a side that he built, angling all the patio stones down towards, causing erosion. Those are concrete barriers. And you can see how they've been eroded because that patio stone right there, you can see where the survey was done. It is on her property. All the water slopes down towards her house. Get a closer look of the set patio stone. Look all the way down to the front. That used to be perfectly straight. It used to be manicured and everything. Ever since that fence was put up, it's been an eyesore. It's taken away value from the home. The front yard does not look anywhere near how it was. And like I said, they've had issues. Like we've got to a point, I don't know if I want to show you, maybe I should show you. They had issues. They kept verbally abusing her. Now that my father passed away, her husband passed away, they're picking on her more. They were warned by the police. Lay off. We had a legal letter written up warning them to back off. Oh, sorry. Okay, I don't know. What else cannot show? There was also, like that's when the police came in, there was a physical assault against her. I have that on video. It can show he hit her with a snowblower. After that, the police came in. They warned them, stop. They behaved for about 2 months, maybe 3 months, and then they started with the fence. They know that aggravates her, and they're just bullying her. That's all I get to say now. Do you want to ask any questions? You said you wanted to ask me a question?
Sorry, questions of the deputant?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I was just trying to understand. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a bit of clarification. So your mom no longer has a fence?
She's got partial fence.
Okay.
The front half of the fence, it was deteriorating so bad that she took it down. There was debris constantly thrown in there. Water was constantly eroding the fence.
Okay.
So there is a fence going to the back half of the property.
Not to the front.
Not to the front.
The front ones, the front area where I saw on page 7 of 11, that fencing has been removed.
Debris and it deteriorated very quickly of stuff being thrown on it.
Okay, super. Thank you very much, sir. That's the question I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Other questions of the deputant? Councillor Myers?
Sorry, just for clarification, I'm a bit confused here. Are you asking for the fence to be, the height of the fence to be continued to the
Yes,
front?
6 feet all the way across, because you can see it's legged, it's staggered.
Right.
And there's no elevation of grade. So there's no reason why it should be elevated certain parts, and then it's an eyesore, it bothers her. She goes in there to do her gardening, and you can see it staggering up high, then down, and up, all the way. She wants it 6 feet all the way across, because eventually she's going to build her own fence anyway, because by the time he finishes building his fence, it will be half in his shed, because the property line, because we had a survey done on it, they had a survey done, they know, and that's why he stopped building it at that point, because it kept going and going, encroaching back into his property, and therefore it would go through his shed, so he stopped. She had a lot on her mind for last year because of her husband passing away, but that is supposed to be taken care of. So she just wants it level. And in the front, one of the panels, space them out, or drop it so she can see people coming up. She can't see them until they're right in front of their property.
And just so I understand, the ground is at grade level?
Once you get to the top of the driveway, it's level, all the way right to the back.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I'm saying, there's no reason to be staggered up like that.
Got it. Thank you. No more questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of staff on this item?
There's additional deputants, I think. Yep.
Sorry, I only have 2 listed on the sheet I have.
To the chair, yes, I emailed you. Frank Bowman is also listed.
Okay, all right, thank you. Sorry about that. My apologies. Our next deputy, Frank Bowman. Bonin, sorry. Mr. Bonin, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Okay. I just want to show at first a picture. This is actually a picture I took and not them. So whatever Mr. Weitz was just talking about, he has nothing to back it up with or anything. And I have all the proof here if it needs to be seen. I got the video with me, which is a 3-minute video, which can be shown if needed. And I'm just going to continue on saying what I have to say. I don't even want to respond to what they just said because a lot is a lie. There are a few reasons why I'm asking for a fence exemption. One would be for the safety of my family. That being said, there have been 2 physical assaults on my wife by the neighbors. The recent one was November 2022. There is a police report with the case number, which I can provide. My wife got seriously injured on that incident. I'd just like to show that. This is the injury. And that's not over yet either. Yeah, wow. And I have a surveillance camera video of everything to back it up, what I'm saying. Also 50+ surveillance videos being harassed by neighbors and their friends. Second reason is privacy. Since Mrs. Weitz has a surveillance camera directly pointing in my kitchen, directly. Which would be, oops, this one here. There is an arrow going to the surveillance. It's going straight in my kitchen. If we walk in our kitchen, she can watch everything we do. If I take that fence, the 20 centimeters, it's too high right now, towards specifications, down, she will see what we're eating on the kitchen table. Okay, the third reason, along the same property line in question, Mrs. Weitz built a fence 2.33 meters, which she got an exemption for. And she built that in front of her 6-foot fence, so both fences belong to her. Neither one of them was mine. Just to show that on another picture. Both those fences are hers. She left her old fence, which was pretty well falling apart, and I can show you that from the other side, what it looks like right now, actually. Here, the left side, that's her fence. Everything is falling apart. I don't want to look at that. So what I actually did is I built my fence in front of her exempted fence, but I built it still 10 centimeters less, just to make it look decent for me, because that's my recreational area where I sit. That's not Mrs. White's recreational area. She just comes there to harass us. That's all she's doing. But like I said, everything I got here, I got a 3-minute clip to back this up. and actually show what's really going on, what the truth is. So if you're interested to see that clip, I got it on a USB stick, and it can be shown. And besides that too, I only built a fence to that little bit higher height, where she had the exemption and had the fence and took it just recently down and then called the city and complained I had too high of a fence. But she still has partially about another 10 feet of fence, which is way higher than it's supposed to be. And now she's complaining mine is too high. So I don't know why she can have a higher one and I can't have one to cover my area up to make it look presentable and decent. It's pretty well all I have to say.
All right, thank you, sir. Are there any questions of the deputy? No questions of the deputy? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
We're going to bring this back into committee. Questions of staff? Deputy Mayor McKelvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So James, can you walk me through, there's some diagrams that you have in your report. So attachment 3, which is on page 6, that fence that's in front of the other fence, that's now removed. Is this an old photo? Sorry, you're muted.
My apologies, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. I asked the question of staff this work week, and they said that the fence was still erected.
So sorry. So if I look in attachment 3, so the fence for both 20 and 22 is still both up.
Right. I had that exact same question of staff this work week, and I said there's 2 fences in this photo. Are they both still there? Because I'm going to be asked that question on the floor, and they said that they're both still there.
Okay. And then there is a picture, though, that is on page 8, attachment 5. So where is that fence? Because I don't see the second fence instead of it, but I thought that was the same picture. Or are these 2 different sides of the house? Like, what are we looking at there?
On page 8, attachment 5?
Yes, because that doesn't have the second fence.
So perhaps I'll explain a little bit further. This report is authored by Terry Carabassis. Terry Carabassis took another position in the corporation last work week. Upon preparing for this and having to represent, there's a couple of items in this. I respectfully request that this matter be held down to next month's meeting to afford me the opportunity to, to your point, there's a couple of matters in this report that I'd like to address.
Okay, I will happily do that, because especially if staff are asking for it. So the other question then is, if we look at page, so in addition to looking at if there's 2 fences, will you also be able to look at the quality of the fence for any safety issues? And if it meets property standards? Yeah.
I will do that.
Okay. Because yeah, I'm seeing in this, I've heard different things. So one, there's just straight up height as a height exemption, but then in looking at the picture on page 5, like I note there may be some boards that are attached on the front there, or different things going on. So if we could just get a better understanding of all the exemptions or how all of this relates to property standards in addition to the fence, that would be helpful. Okay.
I will do that.
Okay, thank you. So on that basis then, we can continue with questions, and then I will move deferral, Chair Ainsley.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Other questions of staff on this item? Councillor Myers, 5 minutes.
Just a quick question. Does the fact that there's a camera play any role in the determination as to whether or not to grant the height exemption?
It's does not, the municipal code 447, the fence bylaw, does not speak to cameras. It just merely speaks to the height and maintenance of the fence.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, we will move to speakers. Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
I'll move deferral to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Any questions of the mover? Seeing none, so we have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor McKelvey on this item to defer this until our next Scarborough Community Council meeting on, I believe, February 24th, 2023. All in favor? And that item carries. This item's been deferred until our next meeting of Scarborough Community Council. Our next item, is SC 2.27 312 Morrish Road, an application for a fence exemption in Ward 25, Scarborough Rouge Park. We have 3 speakers listed. The first speaker is Karthika Ramachandran. Good morning, Ms. Ramachandran. You have 5 minutes to address the committee whenever you're ready.
Okay, can you see my PowerPoint slide?
Sorry, any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, thank you very much. Our next deputant is Glenn Sakira. Mr. Sakira, you have 5 minutes to address the Community Council whenever you're ready.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair and councillors. My name is Glenn Sakura, and I am requesting an exemption to the Toronto City Municipal Code 447 fence, specifically section 447 1.2a, subsection 5. Just to provide a brief background, the City of Toronto, and I have slide 1. Just to provide I have slides there. I'm hoping you can see them. Just to provide a brief background, the City of Toronto has a quite robust reuse and recycle campaign. As the councillor is aware, the city manages close to 900 tons of waste that takes up landfill space. We are a scarce resource. To avoid uncertainty using up this precious resource.
I beg your pardon, sir. Would AV please turn on the overhead?
Oh, but I had this. Okay. Okay. I'll just start it again. Just to provide a brief background, the City of Toronto has quite a robust reuse and recycle campaign. As the council is aware, the city manages close to 900 tons of waste that takes up landfill space, which is a scarce resource. To avoid uncertainty using up this precious resource, the City of Toronto actively encourages its residents to subscribe to its waste reduction campaign. The picture shown here describes how the City of Toronto wishes to accomplish the goals, highlights and recover the resources, which includes repurposing resources. Next slide. Let's look at. Let's look at section 447 1.2a, clause 5, specifically states, no person shall erect, own or maintain or cause or permit the erection or maintain of any fences that uses materials not usually intended for use in permanent fencing, unless specifically permitted by the chapter or any other law. Additionally, the bylaw officer highlighted skids as the material which violates this bylaw. Now look at the difference. Next slide, I'm just going to, 1 second. Now look at the let's look at the difference between skids and pallets and why our fence would not qualify as a skid fence. Marine website has 8 definitions of skids, none of which was specifically by the officer. Assuming they meant a low platform mounted on which material it is set for handling and moving, then the picture on the left can be identified as a skid. The picture on the right, however, is a pallet. Notice that the skids only have top and bottom boards, whereas pallets have top and bottom boards. Also, note that both are made of wood. 1 second. Sorry, right here. Here are 2 pictures of the same fence. Here are 2 pictures of the same fence on the front yard of my property. Notice the fence that was erected is made of pallets and not skids, as identified by the bylaw officer, and is made of wood. The left picture identifies the top and bottom boards, which are the identifying features of a pallet. Now let's address the first claim, that the skid, or in my case, pallets, are not normal fencing materials. A quick Google search can show that there are many pallet fence designs. Therefore, other homeowners and designers have normalized use in pallets fencing. It might be a little small, but right there. So those are designs from designers. In conclusion, I would have expected that the use of wooden skids or pallets, depending on the conjugal definition, as something to be commended and not penalized, given the ingenious repurposing of this wood material and creating a new vibe and environmentally friendly use for it. Our fence is not only complies with the bylaw, but it's made up of material normally used in fence, but it also complies with the city's own environment efforts, including its recycling and green program. We believe we have adequately demonstrated that a fence erected at 312 Morrish Road is fully in compliance with the bylaw, and further repositioning of the wood material embraces the city's goal of inspiring is friendly. Therefore, we respectfully request that council to provide us with the exemption for the bylaw. Thank you very much, councillors.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the deputant? Seeing none, our next deputant, our last speaker registered for this item is Julie Blazbowski.
That's okay. That's okay. Hi, good morning. Thank you for your time. I'll be very brief. I think it's just more of, was here in case the councillors, honorable councillors, had any questions that I could assist in clarifying. But really what this boils down to, as you've heard the neighbors, I guess her pleadings in the situation, I don't believe that they have any real substantial grounds. Thank you for adequately, I guess, maintaining the focus of what we are here for today is really focusing on the fence. Mr. Sequeira from the other side of the aisle is looking to have an exemption provided by the councillors today to install what really boils down to a wooden fence. And it's being installed by repurposing existing types of materials. So they were very thorough in reviewing the bylaw, ensuring that they were compliant. Unfortunately, it seems that some of this situation, including the complaint triggering the inspector visiting the premises, is, as you heard from Kathy, I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce her last name, really stemming from other ancillary issues as opposed to really having concerns about the fence. So I'd like to leave those issues aside and leave the neighbors to resolve those issues separately in other forums and just focus on today's situation, which is just would these neighbors find a mutually satisfactory response to putting in place a wooden fence. That's really what it boils down to. The skids are being used, or the pallets are really being used as wooden frames. The family has added additional paneling, additional wood planks to the frames you've seen to actually make even more sturdier fence. And again, going back to the issue of just reusing, recycling, and finding a green option. So unless you have any questions, I am done. Thank you for your time. Yes, Mr. Myers. Is it for myself or is it for Mr. Sequeira?
At this point, Ms. Blazbowski, we're asking questions of you.
No.
Yes. Through the chair.
Myers, I think you have the floor.
Yeah, that's what I am. Through the chair, just a quick question, ma'am. What's your role in this issue?
Oh, we are family friends.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so you don't live in the house?
No. I live nearby, and so I've provided assistance with the application and some of the documentation, and also am aware of some of the other ancillary possibly legal actions that are also being taken on the other matters. So have information, knowledge that I could, discuss and share with you here.
Thank you. No more questions.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of the deputant? Seeing none, we'll bring this into committee. Questions of staff?
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
Thank you. James, can you just let me know, are these permitted materials under the current bylaw?
No, they are not.
And why?
So Municipal Code 447 fences speaks to no person shall erect, maintain, cause, or permit to erect or maintain any fence that doesn't use materials not intended for the use of permanent fencing unless specifically permitted by this chapter. So I do have a first-person knowledge of this situation. I'll maybe just quickly sum it up. On or about August 2022, Municipal Licensing and Standards received information about the fence that's before you today. The officer attended the location, confirmed that skids were being used along with other various materials at the property. The officer came to me at the conclusion of the shift, showed me pictures, and I said 100% we have to issue a notice of violation because skids, by all intents and purposes, are used for storing, securing, and transporting material. They're not fence material. What is a fence material? Wrought iron, wood, composite wood, glass panels, etc. Skids are not permitted. That led to the notice of violation being issued. That led to a series of phone calls with the property owner. I enlightened the property owner, consistent with my dialogue here today. Subsequently, they applied for fence.
Okay, and then the materials that we select or are permitted, is that also because they have fire safety, proven strength? Like, is that how those materials are on the list? And do we know that about skids? Like, will it always meet all those same criteria for safety, fire safety, et cetera, strength?
Well, to answer your question, fencing material typically is pressure-treated wood or materials that are going to withstand the weather. Skids could be anything from particle board to various materials, up to and including plastic, sheet metal. I did see in the photos that there were some chairs lined up for fencing. All these things, Reinforced Council's bylaws 1447 and 629 property standards to ensure a minimum standard for the community. So skids are not considered fencing material. They don't comply.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Other questions of staff on this item? Councillor Myers.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, can you confirm in your inspection if there were nails protruding from the skids?
In speaking with the officer, skids are not finished product. They're not designed for, again, this purpose, and skids were noted. Again, it's not fencing material.
And one more question: given the intensification of storms that we've experienced with the changing climate, do you think that fence, as currently constructed, would be able to withstand just like a regular storm, let alone one of these once-in-a-century storms?
That's hard for me to answer, but in speaking with the officer, various materials are on or about the fencing at various times he's been there. So whether it's the chairs, the skids, the workmanship in the fence, to answer your question, no.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Myers. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none. Speakers on this item? Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move option 1, refuse to grant the application for an exemption permit. I do believe in reduce, reuse, recycle, but there are safety standards that we need to meet, and there are criteria for materials for fencing that have been given considerable consideration, and there's a reason why we have those rules. I would like to say that deputants, when they come, should speak to the subject matter that is before us, and in this case, that was the fence itself and the fence exemption. So I do think it's important that we remind residents that I know they may have challenges with each other, but it is important that we are respectful to each other in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Other speakers on this item?
Just on the follow-up on the process, are we able to provide any further clarity on some of the questions you
Sorry,
asked?
we're public speakers on this item are done. Thank you.
If there's a follow-up.
Speak to the clerk. Speak to the clerk.
Sorry. So we have an item. We have a motion before us by Deputy Mayor McKelvey. All in favor? And there are no opposed. That carries. All right. Our next item. Sorry,
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yeah.
My question.
Thompson, point of order.
My question to you, Mr. Chair. The text.
Sorry, your point of order?
I had texted you, Mr. Chair, making a request.
Okay, what's your request?
Mr. Chair, today is a sad day. It's sad for a number of reasons, but most importantly, it's sad that this will be the last meeting for Mr. Zuliani. Mr. Zuliani will be conducting his last community council meeting as he is retiring. And he is the director of community planning in the East District, Scarborough. All of us are quite aware of his tremendous work and his leadership. We are joined today by the chief planner for the City of Toronto, Mr. Greg Lintern, along with Mr. Renwick Ashby, manager of community planning here in the Scarborough District. I just wanted to take this time to wish Mr. Zuliani well in his next chapter of his life, and we will greatly miss his expertise, his ability to make complex matters simple as part of the planning process, his ability to bring people together to arrive at consensus and to arrive at a conclusion that works for everyone. I just wanted to take this moment again to thank him for his 34 years of contribution to the city and its planning and its development. I note that when he looks at the city from his vantage point, he will be able to be very proud of his direction, decisions that have been made to make the city a better place in its developmental practices and specifically in the Scarborough area. Mr. Zuliani will be missed, and I just wanted to take this time to wish him well, he and his family, and as he retires, a very young man, that he has lots of time and energy to make great contribution. And as I said, this is but a chapter in a page in the chapter of his professional life. And so just wanted to take that time to thank Mr. Zuliani. And I don't know whether or not Mr. Lintern wishes to say anything, and Mr. Ashby, but I have to leave shortly, Mr. Chair, and this is why I wanted just to take a moment to make the comment through you to Mr. Zuliani and to wish him all the best. Mr. Lintern, did you want to say something?
Councillor Thompson and Chair. We'll certainly take Paul out for a few drinks, maybe, or drink of his choice. But publicly here to thank as well the Community Council for working so closely with staff over the years. We all know what a challenge community planning is in a growing, changing city. And I think our partnership and the work that Paul has been able to do with the team over the years is pretty instrumental in solving and addressing some of those challenges. There's always something new, and Paul has certainly risen to the occasion. He's a strong team player, really provides mentorship and a lot of coaching to his staff. He is kind of a planner's planner. He kind of gets it, which is really important at the end of the day, knowing the intricacies of the business that we're in. Always been interested in looking for ways to do things better. Paul and I worked many years ago on a continuous improvement project. It seems like continuous improvement is continuous, but certainly Paul has that in his DNA. He's also very people-focused and cares a lot about the staff and what's going on in the office and what's going on in people's lives, which is so important today. So on behalf of City Planning, certainly wish him all the best. I don't know what he has going on next, but I do wish him all the best and good health and thank him very much for his public service.
Did you want to say anything?
And I'm.
Here, I think the chair wants to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Paul, I've known you for a long time. I've been a councillor for a while. I can't thank you enough for all of your hard work and dedication on both behalf of the Scarborough Community Council members, but also the residents here in Scarborough. I know it's all of your service has been invaluable. I can't thank you enough, and I hope you have a long, happy, healthy retirement.
You, Paul.
Through the chair, just a few quick words, and thank you very much for this. I just want to say I've been a very proud Toronto Public Service worker for 34 years. I've really been honored to serve council, this community council for the last 15 years, and the residents of Toronto for those 34 years. I'm glad, and I love our city, and I'm glad to see it grow the way it has, and it will continue to be a great city. And lastly, I want to let you know that, you're in good hands here. We've got a great team with Greg and our local managers, Renrick and Christian, and we're growing our team here, and you're in good hands for the next 20 years as well. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul. We will get back to the agenda. So members, just at this point, so we have 4 items left. We have 15 minutes until our lunch break. I don't know if you want to work through the lunch break or come back. We'll try and get through as much as we can before the lunch break and then continue on after the lunch break. I don't know what the will of Community Council is.
Mr. Chair, I think I'd like to continue just to finish off.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to continue as well.
Okay. All right. So at this point, we will continue on. So our next item is SC 2.9, 140 Courcelette Road. It's an application to remove a private tree in Ward 20. And we have, we have one registered speaker on this, Mr. Brian Power. Mr. Power, if you'd like to come forward, and you have 5 minutes to address Community Council whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and councillors. I'd like to just start off, this particular tree is a ginkgo. It's a female which drops off a lot of different berries. Apparently they don't plant these trees anymore. It's between myself and my neighbor. He couldn't make it today. He's an older gentleman, not feeling too well. He sent a letter to the council regarding the tree that he wanted to get rid of it as well because of the nuisance to it. Those are the berries that are up on the screen there. They drop every year, 2 months out of the year, November and December. My 92-year-old mother came over one time and she slipped and broke her hip in 3 places. She refuses to come back to the house because of it. She deals with Alzheimer's now as well, and that's probably part of the problem. So there's a financial burden with that. 2 months in the hospital, 8 months in rehab. These berries smell like vomit for 2 months. You have to put up with that. My description of vomit is clarified through the American Comfort Society. As you can see, where they actually say it smells like vomit. So there's the physical burden, nonstop dropping berries all day for the 2 months. This is a photo 4 hours after 8 a.m. where I have to break these things up along with my neighbor who's 80 plus years old. The physical burden with it as well, it's very heavy, and normally we get through 3 of these 85-liter containers to pick them up. And because they're so heavy, the city workers won't take them, they won't put them into the machines, into the dump trucks. So I have to bring them back to the transfer station. Mr. Travers in his report says that it's a small amount of maintenance necessary for these trees that drop twigs, leaves, and berries. I beg to differ because it's a nonstop work for 2 months. My neighbor is 80 years old plus, and it's a big deal for him as well. And on there you can see on the report, that's what Mr. Travers says. So I had to sign up for my lawn regarding this for 2 weeks. There were 0 comments from other neighbors, and nobody opposed the removal of this tree. Root damage is causing damage to my driveway and to my basement wall. And there's the picture of the roots damaging my inside wall. I had somebody come and give me an estimate to repair all that, and it worked out to be $5,600 from a reputable restoration company. So in conclusion, I trust the committee will use their common sense after all this information has been provided and determine that they will allow this nuisance tree to be removed. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead, Councillor Crawford.
So you mentioned, now is it on your property, sorry, sir, or is it on your neighbor's property?
It's a border tree,
It's a border
which
tree.
is on the the edge of my property and my neighbor.
How long have you lived there, or how long is the, it looks like, I didn't see on the report how old the tree is, but how long have you lived there? And
I've lived there 6 years, and my neighbors lived there for 25.
okay, so you don't, the tree is definitely older than 25 years by the sounds of it.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Other questions of the deputy on this item? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Power. We're going to bring it back into committee. Questions of staff on this item?
Yeah, it's Councillor Crawford.
Yep, Councillor Crawford, go ahead.
Just with regard to trees, again, you have private trees, you have city trees. Do we plant ginkgos? Is this a tree that would be of an option when we're planting, or people are requesting trees on the properties? I'm just, the deputy had commented that they don't plant these anymore, so I just want to ask, do we plant or have options to plant ginkgo trees?
Through the chair, Janice Allen. We do plant ginkgos, but we plant male, not the female.
Okay, and what would that reason, why would we just plant the male, not the female?
Because they don't produce the fruit.
Okay, so we don't plant females because they produce fruit that could be, you know, a nuisance, I guess?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Other questions? Councillor Mantis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Janice, do dingo trees have an invasive root system?
Through the chair, they're not any more invasive than any other tree.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Other questioners of staff on this item?
Just want to clarify that should Community Council grant this request, you would require 5 replacement trees?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor McKelvey. Other questions of staff on this item? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Councillor Myers.
Through the chair, just for my clarification, if does staff conclude that the tree is causing damage to the house?
Through the chair, that was not any part of the application that we received.
Okay. Through the chair, would staff's recommendation change if it was concluded that the tree was causing physical damage to the house?
Sorry. Hello?
Hi?
Oh,
Sorry, we didn't catch
through,
that.
Through the chair, no, our decision would not have changed in this situation because the roots don't cause the damage.
Even to the driveway?
Yeah, no, even to the driveway, because that can be fixed without removal of the tree.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Meyer. Any other questions on this? Okay, thank you very much. Speakers on this item?
Hi, Councillor Crawford
Councillor
here.
Crawford?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move number 1, Scarborough Community Council approve the request for a permit to remove one privately owned tree at 140 and 142 Courcelette Road. First of all, I recognize, and historically, when you're looking at city council, community council, and our discussions with trees, I would assume probably 99% of trees we do not take down, and we do not permit to take them down. And it really comes down to the fact that if it's a healthy tree, with regard to the tree canopy, we understand the importance of that, and we generally do not do that. This is a little bit different, and I'll be honest with my colleagues. I was originally going to move to deny the permit to remove, but when I spoke with staff, I asked about the ginkgo tree, and they actually don't have male. Well, they have male, but not female trees because of the abundance of fruit. And when I looked at the pictures and saw the sort of maintenance and the challenges that are occurring between the two neighbors and elderly neighbors at that. I do recognize those challenges, and part of the motion is for them to provide 5 replacement trees, which can be achieved in a combination of on-site planting and cash in lieu. So again, these are always difficult decisions when it comes to before us, and you always have to look at the extenuating circumstances, because a lot of times we have these debates at City Council after we've had the conversation at Community Council, and sometimes the context of those conversations are different, and I think this is an example of one of those examples of where I believe, as much as I am there to protect the canopy, this is an exemption that I'm comfortable moving. As I said, I didn't come into this meeting today with that assumption, but based on the information I've heard, this is what I'm comfortable doing. So I'm hopefully we'll be able to get the support of my colleagues on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Other speakers on this item? Seeing none, so we have the motion before us by Councillor Crawford recommending approval of removal of the tree. All in favor? None opposed, and that motion carries. Our next item is SC 2.10, 33 Collingsbrook Boulevard, application to remove a private tree. There are no listed speakers. This is in Ward 22. Does anybody have any questions of staff?
Just a quick point of order, Mr. Chair. Can I just move a motion to extend to finish the agenda? Clerks have asked me to do that.
I would appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of extending to conclude the agenda? Thank you. And that's approved. That passes. Thank you, Councillor Crawford. I appreciate that. On to item number 10, as I mentioned. Questioners, any questions of staff on this item? Speakers on this item. Councillor Mansis.
I'd like to move staff recommendations, Chair.
Sorry, I had trouble hearing you.
I would like to move staff recommendations.
Okay. All right, so Councillor Mansis is moving the staff recommendation to deny the request for a permit to remove one privately owned tree at 83 Collingsbrook Boulevard. Any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, all in favor? And that item passes. We are now on to item number 14. U-turn prohibition, Dunmurray Boulevard between Eaglestone Road and Gablehurst Crescent in Ward 14. And sorry, I'm just checking my speakers list. We have one registered speaker, Mr. Miroslav Glavic.
Can you hear me? Hello?
We can. Mr. Glavic, you have 5 minutes to speak whenever you're ready.
It's Ward 22, not 14, just so you know. I live in the area. I fully support the motion. I take my niece to one of the schools there every day. That the cars doing a U-turn can make a mess, and my niece almost got hit quite a few times. Imagine if take off your counselor hats and put your father's, mother's, your parental hats. When you take your kids to school, when you took them in the past, this is a safety factor. I pass this area every day on my jog. I'm in the area at the moment speaking. It's a safety factor for the community. It was requested by the community. Please say yes to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Glavic. Questions of the deputy? Seeing none, we're going to bring this into committee. Questions of staff? Seeing none, speakers on this item. Councillor Mantis, it's your ward. Go ahead.
Just like to move staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mantis. Councillor Mantis is moving staff recommendations. All in favor? None opposed, and that item carries. Our next item is SC 2.16 through highways, Belinda Square, Sandyhook Square, and Sylvestre Square. In Ward 22, we have one registered deputant, Stephen Bojakian.
To the chair, it doesn't seem that he's online.
Okay. And not present in the chamber. So at this point, we'll bring it back into committee then. Are there any questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, speakers on this item? Councillor Mantis, go ahead.
I'd like to move staff recommendations, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Mantis. Any other speakers on this item? Seeing none, Councillor Mantis is moving staff recommendations. All in favor? None opposed. That carries. And I believe that was our last item. Madam Clerk, is there anything else we have to do?
Just the bills item to the chair. Could we just have one moment? Thanks very much.
Okay.
To the chair, we're ready now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I have somebody move the bill? Would somebody like to volunteer to move the bills?
Sure, I'll do that. The bills 104 to 107. So bills 104 to 107 prepared for January 27, 2023 meeting 2 of Scarborough Community Council be declared as a bylaw and passed subject to 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006. I'll move that.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. All in favor? That carries. And I believe, Madam Clerk, I can adjourn the meeting.
One more.
Oh, sorry.
Would you like me to move that?
Mantis, would you like to?
Oh, Mantis. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
Councillor Mantis?
That confirmatory bills to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Scarborough Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 2 on January 27, 2023, be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All in favor? That carries. None opposed. Madam Clerk, is there anything else?
No, there isn't.
All right, and I will move a motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to the Clerk's Department and the IT Department. Very much appreciated by everybody. Have a great day.